Game number 5 against Stef here, and really it just looks like a big bridge thing. There's Margrave to attack your opponent, Marauder as well, but Masquerade deals with those ruins very well. In addition, Margrave in combination with Masquerade can force your opponent into effective 2-card hands, so that's pretty good, because if they don't keep something to pass to you, then they're going to pass something good, and presumably you are going to give them some junk. If they do keep some junk to give to you, well, they just have 2 cards in their hand effectively. So 3-4 looks like Mask and Silver. 5-2 actually, which is what I have, looks like Margrave. Could be Masquerade, but I think the Margrave is decent, and you do want at least one in your deck. Obviously not going to buy the Duchess here, not at all worth it to do that. So Masquerade for my opponent, and I believe this is Silver. I mean, I would open Silver. Yeah, okay, there we go, Masquerade and Silver as I passed there. So we are off to the races. I hope he doesn't play Masquerade here, and he doesn't, so I'm happy about that. Woohoo. On the other hand, I could get up to 6 here quite easily. Well, not quite easily, but I could get up to 6, and I do get up to 6, which is a nice price point. It enables me to go for a Masquerade and a Silver, I believe. I want the Silver to get to 5 more frequently. City is going to be a big deal here. Only source of plus actions. And in addition to that, the City pile itself will empty. So City will be a source of draw at that point, in addition to the Margrave. So a couple of interesting 3-cost buys for my opponent here. The Forager and the Stand. One Masquerade won't get you thin fast enough. And the Dungeon is an interesting buy, even in the light of the discard attacks. I can see the Dungeon early game, cycling quite a bit of cards, but you may want to think twice about that, given that their discard attacks are around. I mean, I would still buy a Dungeon even if their discard attacks around. It's just, good enough, especially on the duration turn. Yeah, when you get the start of turn effect is what I mean. So here I have 4, but I'm not going to pick up a bridge now. I'm going to pick up my Forager here. So 2 Trashers is going to be quite enough for me to thin out as much as I would like to here. My opponent finally makes it past the $5 mark and goes for a Margrave. Fine. This Forager still isn't worth anything, and here I go for a Dungeon now. For me, I don't know about this Dungeon. Maybe a Caravan Guard is better. Maybe just a second Silver is better. But this Dungeon for me at this point is a little bit later than when Stef got it, right? So it's not as good, especially seeing as how my opponent now has the Margrave. So I don't know about that Dungeon. Maybe that's a bit dicey. At any rate, that Dungeon does not affect me not seeing my city here. I'd have loved to see this. Imagine if I had seen this city here. How good would that be? That would be so good. I could maybe draw into the Dungeon that I just bought. Draw into the Forager that I have. So many nice things could have been possible. But nope, that is not for me. I am still able to get to 5, which I am glad for. I'm going to pick up a city here. I do have just the 2 terminals actually, a Margrave and a Masquerade, and now 2 villages. So that should be decent balance in an ever thinning deck. Dead Margrave for my opponent. 4. This could be a bridge, but I don't think my opponent has any cities yet, so that bridge would probably just junk up his hand. He goes for a Caravan Guard on 4 here. So he has a couple Caravan Guards, which is fine. They should trigger reasonably often, given that I will be playing a Margrave a turn here soon enough. And another 5 for my opponent gets him to city this time. So Good times for my opponent. This is not like I don't want to see this. I know there's a city on that last card on my deck that I was really hoping to see that city. It eluded me. Eluded me. And all this I don't know if it's bad luck, but the cards not pairing nicely makes me buy another Margrave here just to try to draw through a bit. And hopefully I could line like City and Margrave more frequently if there's more Margraves in the deck. I don't know. I don't know. I wanted a bit more draw given that I am less trash than my opponent. And yeah, unable to connect things. And here, look, if it had been a City, I'd have had City and Masquerade here. So, I mean, what do you want me to do? And this Masquerade draws the City dead. So, I don't know. I don't know if I just got shafted here by the deck or if I could have done something to better improve my chances of connecting these engine parts. But that little, I mean, there wasn't a massive hiccup in the middle there, but it was enough of a hiccup, I believe, for my opponent to take away the first turn advantage from me, and that comes into play near the end of the game, I believe. So City Masquerade, I don't really want to have to play the Masquerade before the City, but can't do anything about that. That's the only draw card I have. Still not drawing into anything nice. You know, I just need one like nice turn where I see everything all at once, and then we'll be humming from there. We'll be singing. This is like the kind of hand I wanted to see early on from the deck, just to kickstart things, but it's a little bit too late now. Now I do go for the bridge. Um, Eventually things will line up, and I will be able to play my bridges. The deck is getting thinner, so you know, statistically, can't get screwed for much longer. So I'm going to pick up the bridge there, and my opponent, as you see there by my quick reveal, has drawn everything. Everything. I am still yet to do so. So this is what I mean by him taking the first turn advantage away from me. So this turn I'm probably going to have a good turn. Probably, hopefully. I just discarded two cities. A city and a Margrave, sorry. So we'll see how things go. Didn't want to have to do that, but what can you do? Them's the shakes. So 7 is going to be a bridge for my opponent. They have the plus actions to support it. I'm sure if it was 8 it would be double bridge, but as is, it's just bridge and silver, adding maximum payload possible to the deck. So here, thankfully, I draw into two cities. I was fully expecting to see just the Masquerade and some money, but the city is finding me nothing. So in the back is a bunch of terminals, and all the villages are out front here. So there's a bridge in the back, I know, as well as the second Margrave and the Masquerade, and no city. So yeah, I really don't know if I could have done anything differently to in my deck building choices near the beginning of the game here. I mean, maybe if I go through this game more closely, I will see some places for improvement. Maybe the second Margrave should have been a city. Maybe this dungeon is out of place. I don't know. I could see the second city over the Margrave a lot more than the dungeon in my head, but I don't know. I'm unable to do like actual calculations in my head. So the bridge comes out for my opponent. 7. Could go for a pair of bridges. Goes for city and bridge instead. That 7 is actually a very easy city and bridge play there. Not at all difficult. Here, this dungeon is a absolute savior, finding me a city, and I'm finally able to have the turn to kickstart me here. Going to play a couple Margraves. So here, look, the second Margrave was actually very good because it drew me quite a bit of cards. So, I mean, I don't know, it's hard to say. 6 with the bridge in play, I'm going to take double city. just to force my opponent to buy the city and give me first use of the upgraded cities. He has to buy that city, he has to take that city. If he doesn't, then I get 6 cities, and then I could play a lot more bridges than he can, so he has to take it. He has to take it. This is, I don't know, check? Is it check? I don't know if this is check. I don't think this is check. But it grants me first use of the upgraded city, so we should have no problem with draw from this point on. Now it's just a matter of sticking as many bridges as we could into the deck. So here is where the first turn initiative comes into play here, because he's able to stick down 2 bridges and come up with 8 coin, right? And what he's going to do is increase his payload. He's going to take up the last city, of course, and a pair of bridges. So he ends up with 4 bridges in his deck. Now that is the maximum number of bridges he can play, I believe, if he chooses to play both the Masquerade and the Margrave. And I think you do want to play both of them. Obviously the Margrave before the Masquerade to pin your opponent somewhat, or to force him into a bad position. And another nice little buy here from Stef is the second Forager, giving him an extra plus buy with all those bridges in play could be quite significant and decisive. So not wasting any of his money or his buys, as you would expect from this man. Margrave comes out, and this is my opponent's first trigger of the Caravan Guard, so that hasn't been going too well for them, but there's the trigger now. This Masquerade just passes over coppers, so nothing good for me there. And Forager, and now I get the turn he had last turn, right? I could play this Margrave, but I don't think I need the extra buy at this point, and I would rather not draw him any more cards than needs to be done, right? He already has a copper in hand, could be bad. Who knows? Could be like Forager, Forager, copper, and then we would rejoice as he stalls, maybe. Anyway, so at this point, quite a bit of thinking goes into the game. It's heavily sped up from this point on. I do check he has 8 buys, 8 buys. So as long as I leave 8 things in the supply, he cannot end the game in his favor. So I do pick up a couple bridges here, and like him, I am restrained by the number of cities I have. So I can only play 4 bridges, so there's no real need for me to buy anymore. I go for a gold here instead of the Forager. Gold for a bit of payload. Things aren't totally down to 0, so I do need some money to buy things, so which is why I go for the gold there. But maybe the second Forager was better. Maybe, perhaps. I didn't really miss it for the remainder of this game. I actually made well, I didn't really need the gold a terrible amount either, but it was good to have anyway. So thankfully here I'm able to find one of my coppers in my starting hand to pass over. So no uncomfortable fork for me. Very happy about this. So now my opponent is thinking for a bit. Both foragers come out, lots of bridges, and this is the play he makes here. So we had a similar game to this, not to this, but we had a similar style game in the last match involving a bunch of expands, and he was able to outplay me due to a difference in his thinking of the expand. And here I was trying to be aware and alert of that and trying to think of ways to use my bridge, and this is where the first turn advantage comes into play, because this allows him the opportunity to go for triple province on this turn and a heap of caravan guards. Caravan guards is very nice play here. If I play my Margrave, he could trigger potentially a bunch of them and get a lot of money on his turn to pair with his bridge. So he goes for the triple province and the like million caravan guards, and it's like totally safe, right? What would I need to win triple province plus all the bridges and all the caravan guards? And still that wouldn't win for me because I only have 8 buys like he does as well. So I think that 3 caravan guards, 2 bridges, so that's 5, and then the 3 provinces would eat up my all my plus buys. So here, question is whether to get rid of this Margrave for the extra money, but in the end I decide I don't really need the extra money. I would much rather have two Margraves in my deck than have just the one Margrave in my deck. Because you know I could have a better chance of seeing it and drawing. If anything, next turn I could if there is a next turn anyway, I could shell the Margrave to the Forager and pick up the extra money then. So I do make the play here of just trashing a copper and sticking all these bridges in play. Not a big deal. So here, right, I only have the 7 buys, not 8 like my opponent, because he has the extra Forager, right? This Margrave cannot be played. I would have to give up a bridge play for it. So I only have the 7 buys, which is why Stef's play was like 100% safe. And here, I don't know, I feel like I could come back even if my opponent triple provinces again. I could eat up all the duchies and maybe some estates or something, which is why I don't go for like double province and then the remainder being duchies. I mean, if I was going double province, then I could have gone triple province anyway, because, I mean, well, no, that's not true. I could have go double province and then the remainder duchies, but what this does, it opens up another avenue for him to win. He can empty the duchies now and the bridges and win that way. So, I don't know, it was a tough spot for me to be in. I maybe like double province and what, 3 duchies was decent. I don't know, it's hard to say because he does come up with 7 buys on this turn. So even if I left 5 duchies in the stack, he could get all 5 of them plus the 2 bridges and come away with the win still. So yeah, just a real uncomfortable position for me at the end there. And that ends a hard fought game 5. See you in the next one.